Welcome back. Now, sight loss currently affects over 200,000 people in Ireland today, with figures expected to rise. Fighting Blindness are hosting a public engagement day for people with rare sight loss conditions. Joining us now is consultant vitreoretinal surgeon Dr. David Keegan, alongside Nessa Horgan and her daughter Edith, who has retinal dystrophy. Good morning to you all.
Good morning, all.
Thank you for joining us. Edith has been having a chat here. How are you, Edith?
Good.
Good. And Mum is Nessa. Mum, tell us about Edith and her condition. She's 5 years of age.
Edith is 5. She was born with retinal dystrophy. It's congenital. So around 3 weeks old, we would have noticed that she didn't make eye contact. When they're really small, you know, newborns, you're not really sure.
Yeah.
And so she didn't react to light and no eye contact. And so we started to investigate.
Okay.
And then when children are super small, it's hard for them to cooperate with the test. So it takes a while. And around 8 or 9 months, we got the diagnosis of retinal dystrophy, which is something that we would have genetically passed on to her, both myself and my husband.
Okay, not that you have it, but it's in the family, and you would have been aware of that?
No,
you weren't.
And we've gone far back at this stage to see, and there is nothing. So it would be very rare, and it's just the chances that you'd marry and you know, marry somebody with a similar gene. You know, so it was unlikely that we would have known.
Okay, and because Edith is 5, it is tricky to tell what percentage sight she has. There's an estimate, though, isn't there?
Well, we're well under 10%, and it's degenerative. So yeah, we won't end up in you know, total darkness, but it'll be it could change and get worse. And it's there isn't any current treatment for this kind of condition. And
there are a lot of, as you can imagine, with children, a lot of changes that you've had to make. And who is the cat? Tell us who's on your lap.
Shadow.
Shadow. Who's Shadow? Tell us about Shadow.
Well, he is. He's been ordered, and he's from South America.
Really? Wow.
He must be very tired when he got here, was he?
No, since he is. If you look very closely, he has different coloured eyes.
Oh, very good.
And an orange nose, and 2 orange whiskers, and a pumpkin in his mouth.
So he's a special Halloween cat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Shadow. So lots of changes in the house as well, Nessa, in terms of accommodating Edith and making life easier, because the smallest little thing that we don't even think of is going to be so much more difficult.
Yeah, well, it's incredibly practical changes that we make. There's a place for everything in our house, and she has a little brother who has to clean up his toys so that you know, she doesn't go flying. And little things like we have different colour plates. So if we're eating something white, it goes on a black plate, and if we're eating something dark, it goes on a white plate, because contrast is your friend if you've low vision. So there's lots of small things like that, to be honest with you, Edith is our first, so I'm not sure we're always aware that we make those changes.
So you're learning as you go yourselves.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have known any different with you know, a different child, so we kind of put these things in place because they just seem natural to us.
David, those figures are startling, aren't they? 246,000 people in Ireland affected with
well, that's right across the spectrum of eye conditions, and so a rare number, much smaller number would be affected by what Edith has, but that's across the board. You have vision impairment, and in the last census, like 85,000 people would have declared themselves quite significantly vision impaired out of that. Now, we can deal with a lot of that with simple changes, with glasses and making sure people get cataract surgery, their diabetes is looked after, or their macular degeneration. But still, it's a large number for us to be dealing with, and that puts a burden on our health service. So we've got to get it right. And the scandal in that group of patients is that a lot of that's preventable. So 75% of that patient population is preventable blindness and vision impairment.
So when you say it's preventable, that's down to us just general eye care.
Absolutely. So it's simple measures, making sure you have your eyes checked and examined. Don't put down a failing eyesight to just getting older. It's awful to hear that from patients on a regular basis.
What is regular? How often should we have our eyes tested, David?
Ideally, in younger people, every 2 years would be fine. But in older patients, you want to be looking towards every year to have them looked at. And you're picking up signs of cataract, which is imminently treatable once you can get it treated or get on a waiting list.
And cataracts aren't exclusively to people of an older generation. I have a nephew who's in his late teens and had cataract surgery.
That's right. That's in a different spectrum. That'd be congenital cataracts. So they're born with that's a much smaller group, and that's quite urgent to get those patients treated, because if young people have cataract and they've got poor vision in one eye, that's irrecoverable. So if older people, if we get cataracts and it's done, you'll get back to where you were.
Yes.
But if a younger child has cataracts, they need to be operated on promptly.
Okay.
Or they won't
Smoking
recover
is
the
another
vision.
big thing, David.
Well, smoking is associated with so many other risks, health risks. But with respect to the eyes, progression of cataract is quicker. It accelerates diabetic retinopathy. But the biggest danger with smoking in our aging population is the development of macular degeneration. You're 9 times more likely to develop sight loss from macular degeneration if you're a smoker than a non-smoker.
Okay.
So this week then, and particularly Thursday, October the 12th, Fighting Blindness, there's a 3-day international event where there's conversations. Is it simply a case of raising awareness of the existence of the charities, or is it discussing the nitty-gritty in terms of...
This is one of the I go to meetings all over the world regarding retinal disease. This is one of the standout meetings anywhere in the world. Colleagues that come and visit from the UK, the US, all over Europe, they acknowledge it as that because we manage to attract high caliber speakers and people who really are at the cutting edge of research, both on the diagnostic front, but also on the potential for therapies and therapeutics. So that's what makes it a very exciting conference.
And also research, is that touched on in terms of discovering what's down the line and how to treat?
And that's where we get the mix and the blend. So the scientific day on the Friday, for example, we're hearing from these experts what they're doing, what their therapies are coming on board, and specifically around gene therapy, which may be a benefit for young girls like Edith in the future, stem cells, which is regrowing retinas when they've failed, the whole new area of artificial retinas where you put in like a bionic retina at the back of the eye. We have a special expert on robotic eye surgery coming this year, so the very fine delivery of these treatments. So all these therapies are being developed, and we really feel it's important to have our conference here in Ireland that actually puts Irish patients to the forefront of the thoughts about getting treatments on board. Because when we have that here, then we as doctors can promote our patients to the front of the queue for studies or clinical trials if they're appropriate for those patients, but also for starting therapeutics when they become available. It's a very exciting time in our field because the first FDA-approved gene therapy product is becoming available this year, and that's from going back from 15 years of research, but finally have it at that stage in the clinic. What I call this the cataract test, that if somebody walks into my clinic and I sit down, we make a diagnosis, that I say to them, I'm going to book you on my list in 2, 3 or 4 weeks' time, and we're going to do this procedure and it'll be of benefit to you. That's when you've really broken through. So we're very close to that for gene therapy, a bit further away for stem cells and other types of treatments, but they are coming.
They're coming down the track and so many developments. Just before we run out of time, I just wanted to ask Mum Nessa, how do you feel about the situation? Because it's untreatable and there isn't, it's degenerative. So does this give you some hope in terms of the things that David is mentioning there?
It does. I mean, one of the hardest things that we as a family had to deal with is that this is a genetic thing that we passed on.
Yes.
And Edith only went for genetic testing at 3.5, by which time we'd already had another child.
Yes.
And about to have another
one on the way.
And we have a 25% chance every time of having a child with this condition. So it's really hard to make those family decisions when you just don't have the information and you don't have the support or the systems in place to kind of just sit down and talk to people about it.
Completely unprepared for it. And Brother Miles has perfect eyesight.
He has perfect eyesight, and we're waiting to find out.
And you can't find out until baby's born?
No.
Okay.
No. I would take 10 of Edith. So to us, it's not a decision. It's not that as a decision. It's just that that thing of not having the info and not having stuff available, the support systems, genetic counselling.
That's what this week's all about.
It is what it's all about, and it's very important. You hit the nail on the head, Ness, when you say about the information. People need to be able to make an informed choice.
Yes.
And we are really lacking in genetic counsellors and clinical geneticists. That's what leads to delays in that key conversation happening, so that Nessa and the family can make a decision about children, and even for Edith when she grows up. And she's thinking of starting her own family. They need to have that information.
Of course.
So it's really important. We'd love to see whoever can come.
So Thursday the 12th, this Thursday.
Saturday, the patient engagement day is Saturday.
Saturday, okay.
And Saturday the 14th, the patient engagement day. On Thursday, the conference starts with a special workshop for the experts, but on Saturday morning, and sign up for that. It'd be great to see it, and we're very grateful, obviously, to the sponsorship from Novartis to make this meeting happen.
Brilliant. Great. So important. Is Shadow going to wave goodbye, Edith? Will we let Shadow say goodbye? Yeah. Meow. She loves cats.
Sound effects as well. Thank you, Edith. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for bringing Shadow.
She's a brave girl, isn't she?
You say thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.